everyone, welcome to the community classroom. This is Dr. Tracey McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator. And what we're going to be talking about is the new food stamp program that is coming up. And no one really is talking about it, and it's not getting any major attention, although it is a major change that is coming up. And there's been a focus on the shutdown, and there has been little attention paid to some of the actions that were taken prior to the shutdown. So what we're going to look at the major changes to the food stamp program. We're going to look at when the changes were initiated. They were initiated only 2 days before the shutdown. We're going to discuss the changes, why the changes have been proposed, and who's going to be impacted by these changes and why and how. And as a little reminder, if this video appears on any channel other than Dr. Tracey McCarthy, it is stolen and unauthorized. And what we found is that there were some regulatory reformations prior to the shutdown, and there is a new proposed rule for SNAP, and that's the Supplemental Nutrition Program. And this change was initiated on December 20th of 2018. And with this change, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has made a proposed rule for the SNAP program, and it is a proposed rule to change the requirements for what they have identified as able-bodied adults without dependents. And they are changing the rules to refocus on their commitment to pushing people into self-sufficiency. And so this is a change that involves not only the federal government, but some dynamics that are going on at the state level in terms of providing these benefits to it's approximately 3.8 million people. Now we're going to look at a summary of the proposed changes. And so what they are planning to do is change the waiver standards. And basically there's going to be a change in terms of waivers for unemployment status and unemployment benefits. And so previously there has been a set time that people had to receive the SNAP benefits, and this again is related to unemployment, and people were able to get waivers under certain circumstances. And so what the federal government is proposing is very strict standards related to these waivers, and pretty much getting rid of many of the waiver options that states have pretty much been giving to people. And so what they're basically saying is they want to eliminate statewide waivers unless a state actually qualifies for extended unemployment benefits. They want to limit the waivers of large geographic areas that may include sections with sufficient available jobs. And so what they're going to be doing is a job analysis. And so they're going to be looking at the unemployment rates in a particular area. And so the requirements for employment seeking and employment finding will be related to what's going on in that geographic area. And so more specifically, what is proposed is that they are going to allow waivers in local areas with high unemployment relative to the national average, but only when the local rate meets the specific quantitative standard, which is 7%. And there's also going to be a change in terms of the area, the catchment area that they're going to be talking about in terms of these states providing these waivers. They're also going to be increasing those limitations on when people can get these waivers. The Department of Agriculture is reporting that in 2016, there were approximately 3.8 million individual people, not with dependents, who were using SNAP benefits. And they reported that 2.8 million, nearly 74% of these people, were not working. And SNAP has a limit in terms of how long someone can be on welfare in terms of SNAP benefits when there's not a situation where there is dependent care. So no children involved, not elderly and not disabled. And so these are the people that they qualify as able-bodied individuals. And so previously the limit had been 3 months in a 36-month period. Unless the person was working or participating in some sort of work program for at least 80 hours per month. And the law allowed for states to limit these waivers, but states had a lot of flexibility in terms of how they limited the waivers or extended the waivers, and this was based upon whether or not there were sufficient jobs in the area. But what SNAP is basically saying, or what the Department of Agriculture is saying, is that the economy is booming and there is a low unemployment rate. And what they're saying is that basically more people should actually be employed who are on SNAP, and they should be moving towards self-sufficiency, which was the original purpose of SNAP. And so if you recall, when we were talking about the child support issue, the dynamic is such that there is supposed to be a push towards self-sufficiency. And what they're basically saying is that they are seeing less of a push towards self-sufficiency, and so they apparently want to give people a bigger push. And so you can see some of these original press releases. You can actually go and look them up for yourself so you can see it for yourself. And this is a press release that came out December 20th, 2018. And basically what it says is that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is moving to restore the original intent of SNAP. It is a second chance and not a way of life, according to the Department of Agriculture. And so they are moving to remove people from long-term reliance on government assistance. They are saying basically that has never been a part of the American dream, and they are moving people to a policy of work, and they see that as a common sense policy. And this is particularly so because of the unemployment rate being relatively low. And please note that this is for participants who are receiving the SNAP benefits for unemployment. This is for individuals between the ages of 18 and 49. And so that you can better understand the rationale given, it's in quotes. It says, Americans are generous people who believe it is their responsibility to help their fellow citizens when they encounter a difficult stretch, Perdue said. However, that is the commitment behind SNAP. But like other federal welfare programs, it was never intended to be a way of life. And this change is right now in what's known as the comment period. And so if people are looking to comment or respond to these proposed changes, they basically had 60 days to do so. And so we're halfway through that. And so by the middle end of February, that will be the end of the comment period. And I recognize that many people weren't even aware that these changes had been proposed, and so therefore many people would not have even thought to participate in the comment period. And interestingly, what Perdue is saying is that the waivers that the states have been providing have actually weakened people's abilities to gain long-term self-sufficiency. And so they are really going to be pushing the states to get people into work programs and work training programs and off of the SNAP benefits. And one step that the Department of Agriculture has taken is they have contacted all of the governors of all of the states to communicate to those governors what their plan is and the direction they are moving in. And so they are explaining to the governors exactly why they are making these changes. As you can see that these letters went out back in November. And so these changes have been in the works for quite a while now. Again, what is noted is that there have been a significant number of waivers provided for people when there is this national unemployment rate that continues to decrease. And so what they are saying is that even with this decrease in unemployment, 36 states are continuing to currently provide these waivers for these requirements. And so they are basically saying again that the waivers are weakening the state's ability to move this what they call the able-bodied population to long-term self-sufficiency, because they're not requiring them to engage in work or work training. And so that's going to be the new requirement. And so those waivers are not going to be given the way they've been given in the past. One thing that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is requesting is that states basically reevaluate their processes. They are asking them to look to see if the state is effectively engaging the able-bodied working population in work and work training programs at the federal, state, and local level. And so what they are basically asking them to do is to start pushing people into those work and work training programs and evaluate the extent to which they have been effectively doing that and engaging that particular population in those programs. And again, their whole focus is on moving people off of the SNAP program when they are qualified to work in terms of being able-bodied. And so again, this is not for pregnant women or parents with children. This are disabled or elderly individuals. This is for, again, those individuals from, starting at 18 years of age up to 49. And here you can make note of the fact that this process has been going on formally since February of last year. And what the Secretary Perdue said is basically in February, the USDA called for a public comment regarding SNAP requirements and services for individuals. And this was in advance of this process that they are in now. And they said that they received approximately 5,400 unique comments in response, and they are taking those comments into consideration as they have moved forward with the proposed rule change. And again, the Secretary reiterates that the USDA stands ready to work with those states because they are basically saying that the American dream has never been to live on government benefits. They are asserting that those who can work should work. They are, however, reiterating that together their focus is on making sure that everyone is fed. And for those of you who are not familiar, I want to share this with you. You can see what it looks like when a proposed rule has been submitted to the Office of the Federal Register for publication. And many times people listen to the media to get their information about what the government is doing, but a better thing to do would be to look at, what the House is doing, what the Senate is doing, look at the Federal Register, see if there are any executive orders that have gone out so that you can have a firsthand understanding of what is really going on versus getting it through that media created reality of the media, and particularly social media. Okay, and so one of the things you can see here is that this is from the Department of Agriculture. It's about the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and this is specifically for the requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents, and this is an action that is a proposed rule. And again, they are reiterating what it is that they are proposing to do, and indicating again their concern that there has been an increasing low rate of unemployment, and that because of that, more individuals actually should be in the workforce. And so if anyone has any comments that they would like to submit to the USDA, they've indicated that written comments will be received on or before, basically you saw that was December 20th, so you have 60 days from December 20th in order to have your comments considered. And the preferred method is to submit them online, but you can also mail them, and there is the address for mailing any comments. And one of the things that you need to note is that if you do make a comment, that the comment itself is going to be made public, and any information in the comment is going to be made public. And as we wrap this discussion up, one thing that is important to note is that regardless of what the employment rate may or may not be, it may not impact positively those who may not have the qualifications for the jobs that are available in their particular region. And this is important for people who are unemployed because they had, job loss, they were laid off or something like that. In those instances, sometimes 3 months is not a sufficient amount of time in order to find a job that is comparable to what they were doing before. And so there may be jobs, but the jobs available may not be commensurate with what a person had in the past. And of course, this is an individual issue, but again, these are the things that the federal government is asserting in terms of the way they are planning to go ahead in the future, and the way they expect states to operate with respect to this process in the future. Now, for many people, it would have been helpful for them to perhaps have this information about these proposed changes back in December, but better late than never. And remember, knowledge is power. Take care and see you soon.